Hi guys, this is Debbie with Debbie J's Crafting Corner. Today's video is part of the Grads of Team Tiny Thankful Hop. That means that we have all graduated from Team Tiny, a group of small YouTube channels that support each other to reach that 1,000 subscriber mark. Now, while all of us have passed that 1,000 subscriber mark, we are still working together to help each other grow. So be sure to check out the rest of the hop once my video ends. For today's card, I'm using one of the ink smush backgrounds that I created during my recent live stream. You can see the replay here. I just love the way that these backgrounds turned out, so I have to turn them into cards. I'll start off by adding some white heat embossing to the background using the Happy Pomegranate stamp set from Altenew. There are several bloom images in this set that I think would be perfect background for this thankful card. I'm using my EK Success powder tool to thoroughly cover the area that I'll be stamping first. The panel has had a couple of days to dry and is still a little bit warped, so I'm trying to hold it down with some washi tape. I inked up the bloom images with some of the Wow embossing ink and then stamped them down onto my panel. Now, I did this a few times. This watercolor paper background is a bit rough and the ink smushing adds even more texture, plus the images have fine lines, so I just couldn't see the embossing ink. Luckily, the coverage turned out great. I added some white detail embossing powder and used a small dry paintbrush to remove the excess. Then I used my Marvy heat tool to melt it. This white looks so nice on this vibrant red and orange background. Next, I'll flip the panel around and do the same stamping and embossing on the other end. I'm wanting this panel to be fairly full. Initially, I was going to try to fill the entire panel in one stamping, but there are some images that would overlap, so I'm doing multiple stampings. And I'm using a stamp platform, and that is absolutely great for this technique. I'm having a little trouble getting the panel to stick to the DIY sticky grid that I'm using, probably because the panel is warped. So I'll try using the magnets. Now, I rarely use the magnets because I have trouble getting a clean impression when I do. Not exactly sure why. And using too much pressure with the magnets in place can damage the clear lid. I added a bunch more anti-static powder and then inked up the stamps again with Wow embossing ink. I'm not sure if I have enough ink on the panel, but let's give it a shot. I covered the new stamped images with white embossing powder, and it looks fine. Now I'm going to add the larger pomegranate images to that center area that doesn't have any stamping as yet. So I'm inking up the stamp with that Wow embossing ink and then just closing the platform to stamp it down onto my panel. And I can't see the stamped images at all, so I don't know if I've got any ink on there. So I think I'm going to just give up on the bar magnets and just try stamping it without it. I have no idea if the magnets were making it easier or harder to stamp, and I couldn't see the images at all. I went ahead and added that embossing powder over the entire images, and it turns out that the stamping was fine. I can see everything clearly now that the white embossing powder is on there. Places where the stamping overlaps what I did earlier, so I'm taking a paintbrush and removing the excess that's in those places. Now it looks as if these new stamped images are partially behind the leaves and blooms from the previous ones. Then I'm going to go ahead and heat that up with my Marvy heat tool. For the main sentiment, I'm using a stamp from the Big Thanks Word stamp set from Simon Says Stamp. I'll ink up the stamp with the Wow embossing ink and stamp that down. But guess what? I still can't see it, and I really want the sentiment to be clear. So I pulled out an embossing ink dauber from Stampendous just to be on the safe side. At least I can see that it's on the stamp, even if I can't see the stamped image on the page. I'm using gold detail embossing powder from Recollections for the sentiment. This panel is turning out so beautiful. I trimmed the panel down to 3 3/4 by 5 inches. Then I decided to deepen the color along the edges. I'm starting off with Bellini ink from Catherine Pooler to bring some orange in along the edges. Next, I'll add some Cranberry Fizz. I'm starting off by tapping the edges of the card panel with the ink pad. Note to self, don't do that with a fresh, saturated ink pad. Maybe it was because this is watercolor paper, but the ink seemed to be bleeding in from the edges. So I grabbed my blending brush and started blending in from the edges. Then I used a microfiber cloth to buff off the ink from the embossing. I added the card panel to a black cardstock 4 by 5 1/4 mat using some double-sided adhesive tape. Next, I'm adding a sub-sentiment below the main thanks sentiment with some art glitter glue. Then I popped up the finished panel with some foam tape from Arteza onto a white 300 GSM card base. That finishes up this project for today. I want to thank you for joining us for the Grads of Team Tiny Thankful Hop. I encourage you to visit all the other crafters in the hop because I know they will have a lot of inspirational projects for you to see. You can find links to the rest of the hop by clicking on hashtag Grads of Team Tiny Thankful down in the video title. I hope my video has inspired you to create something beautiful, and I would love to see what you create. So come join my Facebook group, Crafting with Debbie, and show us your creations. I've left a link down in the description below. And if you create anything using ideas from my video, please be sure to post a picture on social media and tag me at hashtag DebbieJ's Crafting Corner and at hashtag Grads of Team Tiny Thankful. Here are some other videos that you may be interested in. Thank you again so much for dropping by, and remember, if I can make it, you can too.